It's not that I'm not getting clients. I'm getting more than enough clients, but you're seeing that the length of time a client signs up has expanded.
Don't work on the website, work on the discovery sessions. Fill the calendar, fill the calendar, fill the calendar.
These hard times are the opportunity times as well. But what does that mean? What happens? So in practice, what ends up happening, this is the time where a lot of businesses actually fail.
So they haven't signed up yet. Can I give them another call? Sometimes go for it. We are here to talk about a topic that comes up pretty frequently, which is, can you get clients in today's economy? Can you get clients at all? What does that even mean? Getting clients. So let's talk about that today. And I just want to say, hey Faisal, good to see you this morning. Having a good morning.
Yes, I actually just got off a call with a client, and we actually talked quite a bit about the business world, economy, what's happening, and how that's, and she's a business owner, how that's affecting things. So it'll be an interesting conversation. Maybe
Well,
some of this.
catch me up. What did you learn in your conversation this morning, or what did you talk about?
So one of the biggest things that I'm learning from every business owner that I work with is everybody's pivoting. Everybody's pivoting because the world has shifted. The world has shifted, and it's not even just the economy. Technology has shifted. AI is coming into the picture. It's shifting how people are thinking about things. It's changing how they're strategizing their business. It's getting them to look, okay, what does that mean in terms of demand, supply and demand? So it's the one common thing with everybody, whether it's investors, entrepreneurs of different kinds, even coaches, they're thinking, they're being more mindful of how they need to pivot in the current times. Here's a subtle difference. So that they're not afraid of it. They're actually excited a lot of times. They're just understanding of change that's coming. Can they change with that? Can they create enough change to go along with the current of where the demand is going? And that's a hard thing to do if you haven't been in business long enough. It's very hard to make sense of that because a lot of times when change comes, we might get scared.
Yeah, well, pivot is another fancy word. Is a fancy word for change and adapt,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And modify what you're doing to reflect the new reality. And a lot of times, I think this is not just true in business; it's true also with humans in general. A lot of times, we face changes in our life and in our world, in our reality that we are not quite comfortable with, don't want to accept, and we put our heads in the sand like an ostrich and just ignore it, hoping it goes away. And sometimes that could work, but most of the time you run up head up against the train, on the track, that's coming for you, whether you like it or not. And then you're not prepared. So I think it's really important to acknowledge like the things that we're scared of and things that we are worried about. And instead of like turning away from them, turn towards and run towards those things that are scaring us about the changes that we're facing, whether it's in our life or in our business. And as a coach, I think there's a lot of change with AI that's coming that we can leverage instead of be afraid of. And so like maybe we could talk about some of that today. And was this person in the coaching world, Faisal, or were they in a different business?
No, she was not in this. It's a different business.
Okay.
And the IT world, which is much more connected to the
Oh,
changes.
I used to be in the IT world, so I speak some of the IT language still. It's like an old language that you never lose. But yeah, IT changes so fast, so rapidly. If I went back into IT today, I probably wouldn't know as much. Like I would be like,
There's
what
a
is
lot.
stuff? I was in there back when virtual machines were becoming proliferating across the world. Like you can run a computer inside a computer. You simulate it. Very fascinating. But we're way beyond that now. So, but let's talk about coaching and clients, right? Like, can you still get clients in today's economy? And I think like the answer is obviously yes. Otherwise, why would we be here? But there's lots of nuance to that, and I like to get into a little bit of what that actually means in practice. Let's. I would love to make this more practical, in a sense, Faisal, to like talk through like how do you think about it, but then what are the steps? Because I think there are some very specific steps that we can take to get. We call them get clients, but it's actually create clients. You work together with your clients to turn them
Yeah.
into a client that benefits from what you do together, right? Just like you would with an electrician or with any other vendor that you buy services from. It's beneficial for you and them, right? And so, how do we create clientele? How do we create clients? How do we create this change that we want to see happen in people's life for them?
Yeah, and I mean, with every new thing that comes in, the one thing to be very aware of, whenever new things come in, people kind of gravitate towards new. But the foundations of business has never changed. It's like the foundations are always the same, whether you were 100 years ago or now, foundations of business are the same things. Like you need to understand how to market yourself. You need to understand how to sell. You need to understand how to connect with people. You need to understand how to operate your business. You need to understand the financial backbone of your business. All that stuff will remain the same. Now, the new things that come in will shift your strategy, but the foundation never changed. So if you don't know how to get a client right now, you will struggle more. You will struggle even more. Up until now, if you didn't know how to get a client, you'll struggle even more now because things are changing, they're shifting. But if you have good foundations, that shouldn't change. The only thing that ends up happening is how are you adapting to change? So that's just to say, because a lot of times a new fad can, by the way, it's the same in the marketing world. Like some of the best people that I'm learning from is that, for example, like platforms, like when you're putting out your content, Alex Hermosi talks about this a lot. Like a lot of people go towards the new fad thing that comes in stories or shorts, or which are great. Like they come in for time and it can boost your presence and other things in platforms. But the problem is that as soon as that new thing goes away, your strategy is gone. So what's your foundational strategy? And the foundation is like how are you delivering value in that platform itself? And that doesn't go away ever. Like the strategy, little strategies will change, but the actual thing doesn't. Same thing in business. If you don't understand how sales works, it doesn't matter what new thing you learn with AI and stuff. It's just you don't know how sales works. You don't have enough practice. So coming back to the coaching world, so I'll share my experience around what has happened in the past year, especially like past year has been very interesting. Now my the profit for my business hasn't gone up. Sorry, hasn't gone down. Hasn't gone down. It has gone up a little bit. It's not, it wasn't as the year before that was very different. It was going up faster. So what's happening? And I've been trying to make sense of the data. I've been trying to see what's happening. Actually, it's not that I'm not getting clients. I'm getting more than enough clients, but you're seeing that the length of time a client signs up has expanded. And I'm adapting to how that works.
What do you
So
mean
it's
by expanded? Do you mean it's less frequent or and longer, or do you mean it's
So it's taking longer for a client journey compared to a year or
well
two
to for
ago.
them to sign up? The lead
Sign up,
time
yeah,
to conversion has extended.
has extended. Now, in the beginning, I was experimenting with it
Takes
a
longer.
lot to
I've
see
noticed
like,
that too. Actually, now that you
yeah.
mentioned, I've noticed that too. Taking more than a couple calls to get somebody to the point where they're ready to go. Right.
And that makes sense. So if there's a book of those of us who are listening to this, Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, it will help you understand how economy, money, investing, all that stuff is emotional in nature. Most people assume that it's logical, but it's not. So people shift with the economy because the whole economy is based on an emotional process. The whole stock market, everything in the world operates around money, and money is an emotional thing for people. It's not necessarily logic comes later on. People have a way of looking at processing money in a very emotional way. And spending is a very emotional process for people. So as soon as some big change happens in the economy, whether it's recession or not, people put a pause, or they are more mindful, or they're like, okay, where is my money going? They're kind of thinking about it, but they're more kind of they're putting a pause on it because they don't know what's going to happen. And part of
Even
it is
people's
also,
perceptions of the economy are emotionally based. Most people aren't researching the data and understanding all the different pieces of data that go into how do you measure an economy. It's mostly emotional in nature, reacting to news stories, talking to people,
yeah,
their own
it's
their
like
own bubble.
people like that was one of the things in that book. The author goes is like people invest not in like because they strategically think about it. They invest with their friends, their people they meet somewhere. Like it's a very casual process where they find or they meet somebody in a conference, and they all of a sudden start investing not because they thought about
Literally, you're
the
describing me 15 years ago. That's how I. It's like I've
but
done so
that's just
many things,
generally
so
most
many,
people are.
so many non-logical things.
and everybody has a different way of processing how they look at money, finances, investing, not because they have logically thought this through, but because they just grew up that way. Their mind just works like that, unless they've actually overrode that, or unless and I'm learning that process. They have so many instincts around money that makes no sense when you actually think about
And
it.
this is actually really interesting because as a coach, this is something you can bring to clients. If you've done the effort to become conscious and intentional at a higher level with your money, that's a frame that you can bring to your clients when they think about making money decisions. And that's really important because a lot of clients have a lower level of consciousness and intention around money, just like you're talking about. Most people actually have a very emotionally driven sense of money. I have a client right now who is stuck there, and that's what we're working through. Some of those things they're trying to get organized, but it's not just about getting organized. It's about making the commitment to be more intentional with finances and with money. And so that's part of the value that you can bring to people as they go through this journey of signing up as a client. Is like, how do you think about money, right? There's an opportunity there oftentimes for clients. So
yeah, and also it's an opportunity for us, because it's actually very hard to help somebody with even asking the right questions around money if you haven't actually worked through it yourself. Now, again, with almost anything, I'm not saying you need to be perfect in this area. None of us are. But you're tackling the problem in your own life. You're working through it. You're looking at data. You're understanding how your own thinking around money. That's the only way you're going to ask them questions around it. It's the same with relationships. It's the same with any part of your life. Are you tackling any of the? If you're tackling them, you will know at least what questions to ask, where to go. Otherwise, your mind will completely ignore the subject.
Yeah, Rich Lippman said you can't take somebody deeper than you've been, right? I think money is a really good example of that. If you haven't done the hard work of organizing your finances, then it's hard for you to help somebody else organize them. If you're like struggling to make sense of it all, then you're in the same place, right? So it's going to be very challenging for you to help someone else make sense of it all. Not that it's impossible, but if you've gone through that journey of like facing a financial challenge and overcome it, you can bring that experience. If you've gone through the journey of organizing your finances and doing the analysis and sustainably like evaluating yourself in a logical way beyond just emotions on a regular basis for an extended period of time, that's something you can bring. That experience of what that feels like and what you know is possible will give you that ability to have the higher level conversation with them.
Yeah, and I want to make it more specific. So, for example, I started, actually, this is the first time I did not the first time, maybe second time I've done a strategy session with a couple together recently. And I was actually fairly confident they were going to join, and they were ready to go, and they were going on a cruise. They came back. And all of a sudden I got a message, oh, I don't think we'll be moving forward. And it was very interesting. It was my fault for not taking a deposit to begin with, but it was a good thing I didn't, to be honest. I met them. We had booked the next call together. So I told them, like, you know what, don't worry about signing up. Let's meet for that call. I want to make sure you're supported, because I wanted to understand what was going on. And I get in that, and my role was actually just to understand and support them. I didn't need to convince them to be in my program or not. That's not my intention. That's a very subtle point to pay attention to, because if you're going with that intention, that will be hard. So I went into that, and I just opened the conversation. How was the cruise? What was happening? And I told them that my intention here is to actually support you, even if you're not moving forward with the program. I want to understand what your plan is, so you're supported. When you are ready, you can come back. But help me understand what your plan is. Where are you getting support from? What are you guys focusing on over the next few months? Because they wanted to start a new business. So I just opened up the conversation. One of the first things they said that we really want to join your program. We're having a really hard time with our finances. So here's where the change, like, I wouldn't have asked this question in the past when I was struggling, but what I asked them, like, so what's going on with your finances? So we went deeper into it. I literally broke down every part of their expenses, and it was, you could tell they were so uncomfortable sharing that. I was uncomfortable asking that, but I'm like, we need to deal with this. And I wasn't surprised that they didn't want to sign up, because they were in a mess. A complete mess. And I actually helped them create a plan. And I
At least
told them,
they knew that signing up might be a bigger mess.
yeah, at least but they didn't quite know why, actually.
Yes, yes.
I thought it was worse than what they thought. As I worked through them, I didn't even want to offer the program. I told them, here's your plan. I need you to work on this. You're going to have to make some hard decisions. Let's meet in a month. And then we'll continue this conversation forward. I want to make sure you're supported moving forward. Now, and this is why, think about this. And they're not in a mess because just because the economy is like this. Actually, they were doing very well, both of them, about a year ago. They overspent. And now that things have slowed down a little bit, they have no buffer. And they're struggling. And I literally calculated, you should have, I think they should have had a savings of over close to $50,000, but they didn't have anything. I think they had $2,000 in savings. Even that's going to go. So $50,000, but they thought that was just going to continue for a while. Nothing will change. And then
But they weren't clearly they weren't tracking this and measuring it, and they were just spending money without thinking about it, because that's what you got used to sometimes if you have enough money to spend. And then suddenly one factor changes in your life and you don't factor in how that's going to affect your savings over time. And then you spend your entire savings without realizing it. Like, that's an example of not having enough intention or consciousness around your finances to pay attention.
Right? And we're talking about a couple. Both of them, each of them have a different way of thinking about finances. Again, very emotional.
I wonder how closely were they working together financially? They probably weren't at all, is my guess.
They weren't. They were taking care of things separately. So as an example, one of the areas I challenged them, so that they had 2 cars. And the husband was working from home, and I had to go into them like, so you're spending $1,000 on this car to keep that car. What do you use this for? It's like, well, once in a while I go out, take the kids. How often? Twice a month. What else do you use it for? So it ended up being about 4 times a month he uses the car. And it was obvious because he doesn't put a lot of gas in it. And like, what are you keeping the car for? And it was a convenience. And I get it. It's a convenience. I'm like, what if
what's the trade-off? He's not thinking about what's the trade-off.
He wasn't thinking about it at all. I'm like, so what if you took Uber? What difference? What would be the difference? We calculated that, and huge difference between the two. I'm like, I get it. It's a luxury.
He's like, whoa, I've never thought of that.
Can you afford it? Can you afford that right now? And then the wife is sitting there frustrated. Because I can tell she's
that's fascinating. I love this. Is like very, very common though. But I think that the real clear point I want to emphasize to people listening about helping people become clients is actually the first word, which is helping. What you're doing here is you're helping them understand their finances well enough so that, number one, they can improve their life you're serving, and number two, they can make some money, get some money out of their finances to improve their financial situation. And it's just like you're giving them skills for the long term in their life. And then number three, they will then be more likely able to afford to work with you to change more things in their life, right? Yeah. So like it's like a win-win scenario for everybody if you do this work together. And I want people to be very clear, like, you're not trying to take their money. A lot of the times in coaching, especially with early stages of coaching, like, we're afraid to take people's money. And it's not that you're taking money, it's an exchange. You're exchanging value. Just like if you bought a car for $30,000, you find some value from that car. If you got a coaching program for $10,000 or $1,000 or whatever you charge for your program, they're going to get some value from you, right? Yeah. And so you can be confident about the level of value you can create for somebody and how much that's worth to them and how much money that you need to make your business work. Then you can feel very good about charging for coaching. In fact, if you don't feel very good about charging for coaching, that is one of the reasons you're going to get fewer clients in your business, right?
So here's the thing. Let me put it this way. If when they make that decision, let's say they get rid of the car, they do a bunch of other and I know that if they make some hard decisions, they can save about close to $3,000 a month. I wouldn't hesitate to take half of that for their coaching process, for the coaching, because I know it's going to change their whole life. And they actually see the value and they actually know it. And what I'm trying to do here, and I'm not attached to whether or not they sign up for the coaching, but what I'm trying to do is help them understand how they can improve their life very quickly. Now they have a challenge to meet every week and actually go through their finances. They're going to actually look at everything, no matter how uncomfortable it is. And once a month, they're going to meet and figure out their strategy around all this stuff.
Even before they sign up for you or after they sign up for you? What do you
No, after. Well, no, now.
So what you want to take them through is a financial kind of transformation program, basically.
Well, and then over the next month, I want them to do this for them to see the difference.
As a homework actions.
As a homework.
Yeah. Okay.
So when we meet, then they've either made some hard decisions and move forward, and they're actually working on their finances, or they're still struggling. Either way, they need support. What are they gonna do? Where are they gonna get support? And that will be for them to figure out. And again, the reason why I'm also sharing this case study is this is why it's taking longer. So there are a couple of reasons why it's taking longer for people to sign up. One, people might be in financial mess right now in all sorts of ways because of their business. They've over leveraged themselves in their business and their investments. They have over leveraged themselves on the personal side. I can't tell you how many people I know they're in more, they bought a house and now their rate is variable, especially in Canada. And now they're paying twice as much as
Yeah,
what
in
they.
Canada, you can't get 30-year mortgages fixed in Canada. You can't.
Yeah, that's
In the
not the
States, you
that
can.
that got fixed in US after the whole 2008 craziness, but Canada still has that in place. So that like a lot of people are struggling with that in that way. But even in
The
US,
challenge is you can't predict what you're going to pay. That's the challenge.
yeah, it's a lot of people can maintain. But look at the business side in the US, multifamily, a lot of them have variable rates. They're coming
Yeah.
due. They
Yeah.
over
That's
like some of the best people, like if like these people are training other people, and I have a lot of their students will come to me is like, how did they not foresee this? Like they didn't. They overextended themselves, and now it's coming due, and now they're doing capital raising calls. They're raising more capital from their investors, saying that we can't maintain this thing. We either have to sell at a lower, we accept the loss, or we raise more capital and maintain and sell it later. But again, everybody's going through this stuff. So one, and here's the thing. As soon as, so finances create all sorts of other problems. Looking at marriages, one of the biggest challenges in marriage is actually finance. So it creates problems in relationships. Look at stress. Look at overwhelm. Where does that come from in people's finances and their businesses? So people are overwhelmed, stressed, they don't know how to think. You can help them, but here's the thing, it will take them time to make a decision. And that's what I'm finding. It takes them time to trust you and make a decision to move forward. And I'm okay with that. And I'm finding that more and more. And I kept split testing this over the past year. And you find out that, you know what? No, people need a little bit longer time. The more I push it towards less time with them, the more it backfired for me. So I'm like, I'm not attached to when they sign up. I just need to talk to enough people. I need to have enough people in my pipeline to support, serve, and when they're ready, they sign up. My role is to continue the conversation and support them, especially in the current time.
Yeah, which brings us to I think some practical steps here. So like I want to just sort of tie that together with what we started the conversation with, which is what do you actually do to get clients? So I think the first lesson here is number one, you find people that you can serve, like that you can make a difference for. Like find the people that you're actually going to make a difference for and just go out and make a difference for them. That's step one, right? You don't even have to get paid for that part. We have a discovery session. You just serve them, you find out about them, and you serve them in some way. And you keep that in your mind of service. And you have to recognize that it might take more than one call for you to get them to the place where they recognize the value that you're going to provide. So maybe you have that call, maybe you have another call, maybe you have a third call. So like just keep yourself focused on serving and making a difference. And if you don't have enough money to sustain that sort of long client cycle, you need to have an income source. You need to have some independent, income. If you don't have any clients and you don't have any money from your coaching business yet, get money somewhere else and have that stability so that you can confidently go out and serve and make a difference without requiring their money, right? It's really important that you don't require their money because that's helps with the trust process. So step one, you go out and serve, and you serve, and you can invite them to coach with you. Say, here's how much it costs to coach me. Let's continue this conversation. And sometimes they'll do it, and sometimes they won't. If they don't sign up for you, it doesn't mean they're not going to sign up with you ever. You may be able to continue serving them. I've got somebody who I've had a discovery session, then I had a second session, and then I had a third session where we talked about what the investment was going to be. They're not ready to go yet. I'm supporting them through text. And we may or may not have another session, but I'm continuing to support them via text as he works through towards getting his finances together. And I like what you said, Faisal, about like working through the finances with them. That's actually the next step. I have two people exactly in the same scenario where their challenge is finances. And actually, I may, I might do a group call with both of them and see how that goes. That's an interesting one where we talk about like a little financial mastermind. That could be an interesting, that's an experiment to run, but I'm not saying to do that. What you can do is you can actually say like, okay, so they haven't signed up yet. Can I give them another call? Sometimes go for it. Say like, hey, let's hop on the phone, work through the finances. And this is kind of where I'm getting to with them. Um, and just spend a couple hours getting you organized, getting you thinking about things, getting a plan in place so that you know what to execute on, give them some very clear steps to execute next, and then say, we'll check back in a month. And then, over the next few weeks, you check back in with them, make sure they're making progress. And if they're not making progress, then the conversation is, hey, I think you're going to need more support to make progress here, because, do you see how you have these struggles? Like, let's work through those and make sure you're making progress. Then that might give them more necessity to get the support they need. Or if they are making progress, then they may be ready to able to afford the coaching that they want, right?
Yeah.
The most important part of this is that if they want to continue coaching with you and finances are the obstacle, you can work through that with them like a coach would. You're showing them what it means to be coached, right? And so that's so step one, serve. Step two, make them the offer to join your coaching program. Step three, if they're not ready, stay in touch, follow up, and you may need to track all the people that you're talking to over time so you don't get overwhelmed. But stay in touch and help support them through the decision-making process of joining you to make sure it's a good decision for them and they can feel that you're going to support them through all the hard decisions they're going to make. Like, signing up for coaching is a big decision. It's usually a higher price than, a hamburger. And, if you're making a big decision about money, it's smart to take your time and to make a good decision, right? So let them do that with you. But you have to be able to sustain that activity set, which is why it's important for you to have other sources of income too, if you don't have any income.
Yeah, and I love those steps. And if you're completely confused about your sales process and why we keep talking about finding people in this way, and as a coach, you've kind of focused more on the marketing side, which is important. But the thing that you need to understand more is your customer journey, sales process, how you're going to support people, how you're going to make your offer. That's what we do in our community. Definitely join our community. You'll find the link somewhere to join our community. It's for the first 30 days as of the recording of this is free for the first 30 days, which is, what is this, August 14th. That might change, but definitely join us because we can walk you through the whole process of how you do this. A lot of coaches have no idea how to go through this because they just haven't been taught, and we understand that. I didn't know this stuff. One thing I want to share from a business point of view, and this is where a lot of business owners who have been doing this for decades, they will say this over and over, that these hard times are the opportunity times as well. But what does that mean? What happens? So in practice, what ends up happening, this is the time where a lot of businesses actually fail as well. This is the time where, unfortunately, a lot of businesses will drop because of bad decisions that were made, because they can't sustain it for whatever reason. They can't sustain the thing because the economy is tough. They don't know how to pivot. They don't have the experience. They don't have the energy. They don't have the resources to maintain the business. They drop. And that's also true for coaches. Coaches are no different. So what ends up happening over the next few years, you will find out that the only coaches who will remain, or the only business coaches who have businesses who remain, are the ones who have actually served people, and they can sustain it in some way. So what happens is, now think about it, a lot of people will drop, a lot of businesses will drop, and you are one of the few businesses that stay. What does that do to the supply and demand? You have more and more people coming to you. And of course, this is going to be within different niches. So for example, my clients are in the multifamily space. I know that quite a few coaches cannot sustain this stuff. In fact, it's very interesting to watch the behavior of the coaches that are in that multifamily space, because they're usually coaches who are doing multiple things. They're also investors, and they're also coaches. Some of them are really good coaches. I have nothing against them, but you can see that they're pivoting more towards coaching, but they're only because of the necessity, because they're not doing well on the multifamily space. they're not doing well on their investing side, so they're pivoting more towards it, but it's like a short-term thing for them. But when I'm looking at this business, I'm looking at it as a very long-term thing. So their approach will be very different than mine. And I know they will not succeed because of that same thing. They will not be successful because of the way they're looking at it. It's nothing wrong with their coaching process, but they're looking for a quick fix
I'm just
here.
gonna do this for a couple of years till I get rich, and then
Yeah, and I'll go
then I'll
back
go
to the
back to do
multifamily.
something else. Yeah.
Doing so for me, that's not the case. Like I'm gonna be there for the next decade. This is my life, this is my world. For me, it will keep expanding, even if it's a little bit at a time. They're looking for, oh, until this picks up, I'll do this. That doesn't take you towards mastery. That doesn't take you towards specialization. Doesn't take you towards understanding your customer base.
Which gets us to our why. Like why coaching, right? If you're thinking about, if you're struggling to get clients, I want you to think about why coaching for you. Like, what is it about coaching that's drawing you in? Is it just a job? Is it just a way to make money? I mean, there are actually coaching jobs available in the marketplace. You can get hired as a coach.
Yeah.
And some people just do it as a job and they don't have that passion for it, just like every other job in the world. But if you're building your business to be a coach, I want you to make sure you dial into the thing that drives you. Like, what is the passion that you have for coaching? Do you care about the kind of work that you're doing? Do you care about the impact that you're making? Why are you drawn to it? And if it's just money, and if you had the money, you would quit today, you may have a sustainability issue long term to build this business. Especially
and that's a good question to ask yourself. I always ask this from our clients, especially coaches or business owners. I'll ask them, if you had $100 million in your account right now, what would you do differently in your life? If they give me a completely different picture of their life, I'm like, why are you doing all the things that you're doing right now?
If I had $100 million, a lot of my money would go into like supporting and building the coaching business that I want to have. Right. And that's a good sign for me that that I'm in the right track, because like I want to plug that into my coaching business, right? How could I use that intelligently in my coaching business? Like, that's too much money for my coaching business right now.
Yeah. But the thing is, for me, it's like I'll be doing the same exact thing. It won't even change my lifestyle that much. A few extra things I would do, but my lifestyle will be very similar. My business, the only thing I'm doing it faster and better.
Yeah, I think your business would accelerate because you can get more team, you can get more systems, you can get more technology but then even that creates a complexity, right? So whether
I have to be very mindful of
that.
Mindful of that. Yes, I can hire more people. I can build better systems. I can free up my time a little bit more and work on more strategic things. But again, I will do this because this matters to me. I don't care how much money I have. And yes, this helps me make money, but that's not the only factor in this equation.
Yes. And you know what that makes me think of, Faisal, and this may be a good point to wrap up on, which is this matters to you. And you know what? The best way to build your coaching business, in my opinion, is to stay plugged in to what matters to you. And if you have a discovery session with somebody, free or not, especially like if you loved that process, if you really enjoyed coaching with that person, if you really enjoyed the impact you're having, like, keep on doing that so that you stay plugged in. Like, the most important thing to do long term is to keep on serving, just so you have that energy of impact. If that's the thing that you love doing, if it lights you up to coach people and you don't have anybody to coach, it's going to be hard to stay lit up about your business. So make sure you get the people to coach. It doesn't matter at the early stage. It almost doesn't matter whether you're getting income, because if you're not getting energy, it's going to create so much resistance that you won't get the income as quickly. So I would say step 0, before you do anything, just like feel the difference you can make as much as possible. So like there's just one thing you need to do is just fill up your calendar with as many like discovery sessions as you can. If that's the only thing you're focused on, as whatever space you have, just put it into discovery sessions. And if you don't have enough discovery sessions on your calendar, you have more space for those, then keep working on that. Don't work on the website, work on the discovery sessions. Fill the calendar, fill the calendar. Step 1, just get the discovery sessions on the calendar so you can feel that impact. And as you do that, if you do enough of those, you're going to be so confident that you can make a difference for people that come in. You'll know who you can help and who you can't. It will be so natural for you to start getting clients, right? But that's really, in practice, people find that really hard because now they have to like outreach to people. Now they have to invite people in. Now they have to take people through a process. And there's a whole emotional journey for you as a coach in that process, which is one of the reasons we have a community to help support you through that journey. Because if you're not like full speed ahead and filling your calendar with discovery calls, let's figure out why, right?
Yeah, and then you reminded me of that quote in the Prosperous Coach, what Rich Litvin shares, and that statement changed my coaching career. Like when I was at the time when I was so frustrated, I'm like, why isn't this working? And he's like, the only thing you need to focus on, and he puts it as coach, coach, and coach. If you want to be a world-class coach, coach, coach. And I just took that and like I had that in front of me for a long time. Now it's in my mind all the time. Like when things are off, like I look at my calendar, how many calls are on my calendar? And why aren't there calls on my calendar? What the hell else am I doing with as a coach in my business if I don't have calls? And usually if you're not asking that question, you're busy with all sorts of things other than helping people. And here's how it works from a business point of view. Like imagine you built this pen, this digital or mechanical pen, whatever it is. And I want you to think of it from the market's point of view. If this was a good pen, if this was a really good pen, and you took it and gave it to, went around and just showed it to every person and told them to use it, I would bet that if you did that enough, let's say 1,000 people, quite a few of those people, if this was a good pen, they will buy it from you. That's just how the market works. That's how it works.
That's also the free sample principle, right? You go to Costco, they offer you this little chocolate. You're like, oh, that was so good. Oh, they're right here. Would you like one?
Buying a bunch of
Of course
boxes.
I would like one because I love this chocolate. So you buy the whole bag and then you finish it in a day, of course.
Yeah, well, and that's just how the marketplace works, and every business owner understands this. But when coaches are coming and they don't understand business, so they're like, well, no, my time is valuable. No, you don't. You think a business is like a job where when you do something, you get paid for it. That's not how business works. So when you put yourself out there with enough people, you've served enough people. When you've done that consistently, you will naturally see people who will see value in it because it actually helps them with a part of their life. Totally. And that's where but you need to understand what that journey is, what the offer is, what a bunch of that stuff. And a couple other quotes from Alex Hormozi comes to mind. One is that in the beginning of your business, you're going to be in the learning phase, not the earning phase of your business. The learning phase is a lot. You think that it's the same as any other job. It is not. It's a whole other animal. You'll be in a learning phase until you start earning, and be okay, which means that you're focused. You're gonna detach yourself from what you make in the beginning. You learn what business looks like. You specialize. You understand how your coaching works, how you add value. You refine it. You refine your product, and you find your skill sets to promote this product. When you do that enough, eventually you'll make money.
I like that going from learn to earn. I would actually say there's a couple of steps before that. You start out yearning, and then you start your business, and then you start burning. Like you're burning all your money, you're burning all your time, you don't know what you're doing, and then you realize I need to actually coach, and that's when you start learning. And then those discovery calls will turn into clients, and that's when you start earning. So you go from yearning to burning to learning to earning. That's the typical journey, actually. And I definitely have done that. I had a yearning to become a coach, and then I said, I'm going to start a business, and then I didn't know anything about doing that. So I definitely went through the burning phase. Until I found coaches around me, like the ones we have in CMC, I didn't really get into the learning phase.
Yeah, for sure. Same for me. And this is why we believe you want to be around other business owners who are actually working through this stuff. You want to be around other business owners who are putting themselves out there, because you will get direct live feedback from the marketplace, not you watching the news, not you listening to some person talking about the theory of how the marketplace is working, but people who are actually out there in the trenches doing this thing. And I'll leave this with, like, if you're a coach who's wanting to make this a long-term path, you want to actually work with people, you want to build a profitable business, take this time. This is going to be challenging for you to build a business right now, but if you can work through this for the next 2 years and you actually get clients, you will probably quadruple that in the next 2 years if you could figure that out.
It's somewhat of an exponential gain, right?
Yeah, it will be an exponential game because I guarantee you there are a lot of people will drop off, a lot of businesses will drop off in the next few years, and what will be left will be the people who are really dedicated and they are focused. This is part of their purpose. This is bigger than just money for them. This is, and one last quote from Alex Hormozi, I remember it was that missionaries always beat mercenaries in the long term. Long term.
I like that.
Have a mission behind this, a purpose behind this. Long term, you'll always win.
Yeah, I like that. That's true. Yeah. All right, awesome. Well, what a great conversation today, Faisal. I really enjoyed chatting about clients, money, and the economy, and the steps to get clients, or as we say, to create clients. So thanks for the great conversation today, Faisal.
Thank you. This was a fun conversation. Please share your thoughts with us wherever you're listening to this podcast, YouTube, or in our community. Please, please share your thoughts around like how are you finding this as you're trying to connect with clients? Are you seeing the same thing, or are you seeing a completely different thing? We might have a part of the picture. We'd love to hear from you too. And what was the biggest insight that you got from our conversation here?
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so please do share and go to cmc.coach to join our community or to learn more. And hopefully we'll see you soon.
We'll see you on the other side. Take care. Bye.
Bye.